In this video, I'm going to talk about whether or not the future of wargaming is in one of these. So as I've mentioned on many of the live shows in the past, my day job, I work for a company that makes mobile apps. We're a small little house and we make mobile apps for phones and stuff like that, predominantly business to business type stuff. Because of that, most of us in the company, again, it's a small company, we all took a good extended lunch break this week and watched the big Apple Keynote for September 2017, in which they announced the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 and a bunch of other stuff, and that's fine. But, we got to keep up on the industry, and so that's why we're watching it. But they talked about and showed something during this keynote which is very related to the thing that we like, tabletop wargaming, at least in my opinion, and I thought I better talk about it. So at one point after they, I think, announced the iPhone 8, or during that whole thing, they started talking about AR. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, that's augmented reality. There's virtual reality, or VR, which generally means I'm going to wear a headset and look like a space person, and everything that you see, because it's covering your entire face, everything you see is computer generated, and generally three-dimensional as well, because there's usually two screens inside there, so they can offset a little bit, give you that parallax, give you that depth of field kind of illusion. Augmented reality is you're still looking at regular reality, but we're just augmenting it by putting other stuff kind of superimposed in it. And the way it's normally done, at least in this day and age, is you look through your phone. You hold up your phone and you're looking at stuff, or you maybe hold up a tablet or whatever. And the camera in the phone then shows you what's on the other side, which you could just see by looking, but it also superimposes information or Pokemons or whatever over the top of what you're actually looking at. So in this demo talking about AR, and Apple's getting pretty heavy into AR. They've released something called the AR Kit, which is a development kit for programmers and such and designers to be able to use the features built into the iPhone. They have the same type of thing for Android as well, but they're both getting heavily into this whole augmented reality AR thing. And the thing that I thought was most interesting was they showed some of the uses, and one of them is a current game, although this new functionality doesn't seem to be in the game, but it's something that is a Warhammer 40,000 mobile game called Freeblades, which has been around for a while. In it, though, with the new AR stuff, you'll be able to take the photo feature of your cool, big Imperial Knight kind of guy, which currently you can kind of pose and set everything all up and get the camera just right and take a cool screenshot, like this one. What they actually have added now with AR is the ability to have that giant robot actually like on the tabletop in front of you, and you can look at it through your phone. You pick it up and you go, oh yeah, there it is, there on the kitchen table next to the pot roast, and it will stomp around and do stuff, and then like a Helldrake comes in and attacks it and all this kind of stuff. And it's really cool. And I'm watching this, along with several million other people because it's an Apple keynote, and I'm like, that's $40K right there on the thing. And I thought that was very interesting. And then it got more interesting. Shortly after that, they had a couple of guys come out from a game company called Directive Games, and they are making a new AR game. And what they did is they had an empty tabletop in front of them out there on the stage, and the two guys were playing a multiplayer game where when they looked through their phones at the table, they didn't see a bare table. They saw terrain. They saw hills and trees and dirt and grass and all kinds of stuff. And then they also saw units fighting it out on that terrain. It's a game called The Machines, and it is allegedly coming out this fall and is going to be available on the iPhone 8 and above because of the AR capabilities that are built into it. In it, it was a real-time looking game where you would send robot units over to do this and that and the other thing, and that's great. But as soon as I saw that up on the stage here at this big, huge Apple keynote, my brain immediately started thinking like, well, how does this relate to wargaming? And obviously, from just the way they were showing it, I think it relates a lot to wargaming. And I started to ask myself, is this where we're going? Now, obviously, there will be people like me who love the painting and the building and the tiny little files and the glue getting stuck all over their fingers and all that stuff, who will not stop playing normal tabletop war games. That's pretty much just a general absolute. There will always be people who like that and eschew, the other thing, the video game like quality of it. But I have to say, even as one of those guys who really loves the craft and the whole kind of thing, and you guys have seen in other videos where I've talked about how I really like that portion of it a little bit more than the gaming, I have to admit there are times when it would be great to be able to play something that kind of seemed like a tabletop war game, but all I had to carry around was this phone. I could just take this thing and I could, with my friend, like say during lunch or whatever on our break, we could play a quick tabletop turn-based game where we didn't have to build terrain, we didn't have to haul around all of our models, and it was all right there, and you'd just be looking through your phone and saying, okay, or your tablet or whatever, I want to move this guy over to there, and this guy's going to target these guys, and all that kind of stuff. And then when you're done, you either save it and then finish the rest of the game later on, or you're done, and now you just put your phones back in your pockets, and there's no cleanup. I know personally that there are a lot of people out there who really seem to enjoy wargaming, but aren't as into the craft portion of it, say, as I am. And to my mind, this is kind of a no-brainer. This is the type of thing that you're going to probably start to see in the next couple of years. Now, again, I don't believe that this threatens tabletop wargaming too much, no more than regular video games already do. And Lord knows wargaming in general has been growing year to year as more and more people get into tabletop stuff. Obviously, video games are still humongous and they dwarf us in every possible measurable way. But the fact of the matter is that it may become something that you see very soon, that people who are really interested in the concept of turn-based, I'm going to move my guys over here, you're going to move your guys over there, those people might start going away because this is just so much easier. Just bringing out the phone and playing, on the tabletop, during lunch at school, or, on the floor in your garage when your friend comes over and you sit outside and have a couple of cocktails and move some virtual or AR, I don't know, whatever, augmented figures around on your concrete, oil-stained floor. That may become the norm for some people. Again, like I said, I don't see that the hobby aspect, the people who really enjoy that hobby aspect, is going to go away anytime soon. But I think it's very interesting to see where this hobby, and it's not even could be going, but I think that very possibly it is going. You're going to start seeing more and more of this kind of stuff. I think AR is going to work better than VR in this particular situation. There's a game on Steam, if you've got like a really expensive headset, like one of those HTC Vives or Oculus Rift, there's a game called Tabletop Simulator that has all kinds of different tabletop games on it. You can play them in virtual reality. Again, you've got the headset on, you can't see anything else except what is being shown to you inside the headset. There are mods for it that allow you to play 40K. They've got a whole bunch of different 3D models of all the dreadnoughts and the this and the that and the Tyranids or whatever. So, that's great, especially if you want to play with somebody who's on the other side of the country, But when you want to play a quick game, and if you've been playing war games for any amount of time, there's very rarely ever something known as a quick game in a war game. There's the setup, there's the actual play, there's the takedown. It spreads out the amount of time you have to do to make the game happen. But if you can just pull out your phone and just be able to just, play a quick game and like that, I think that you could see that becoming something that a lot of the bigger companies, Cool Mini or not, Privateer Press, Warhammer 40,000, Games Workshop, a lot of these, Games Workshop's been courting the video game market quite some time. If you've ever looked at the Free Blades game, it's really pretty cool, but it is, and it's all licensed. So they're not strangers to this. And, Privateer Press isn't, and a lot of other companies I think could get into that realm. And then, I don't know. I think it's very interesting to see where this could go. But I was really stunned by the concept of playing what looked to me like a tabletop game as they were actually playing it on a real tabletop. It's just nothing was actually really there, but they had to play it on a surface. That concept, it's just cutting down a lot of barriers to entry. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Do you think that this kind of AR, looking through the camera of your phone or looking through your tablet and playing a tabletop war game, with licensed pieces or anything along those lines, do you see that as something that's coming down the road? Or do you think that this is all kind of just virtual hogwash and, you don't think that any of this is going to come about? I personally think this is coming down the road. And again, I don't think that the people who really love the painting and all the other kind of nerd type stuff that I like are going to stop doing that. But I think that the people out there that are very interested in the type of game, but not necessarily the craft, I could see this being a big draw for people like that, which is, great because it's still technically the hobby, certainly. But I don't know. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you guys think about all of this new technology and how it actually is going to impact wargaming. So, throw some comments down below. Let's get a conversation started. And if you don't want to do it here for some reason, if you want to do it on Facebook, you can do it there. There's a lot of different places. But I'm interested to know what you guys think about the future of wargaming and how it relates to stuff like your phone and where that's going. Do you think that it's AR, or do you think that it's wearing a crazy spaceman headset with VR? I think it's AR because, who wants to carry around that big honking headset? I know I don't, but I've always got a phone on me. So again, like I said, comments below. I think that I'm looking forward to checking it out. I just do wonder about what it's going to do to the overall hobby.